What if I told you that you could express pretty much any complex idea with a really, really small vocabulary? And no, this isn't some fantasy. It's actually the whole goal of this fascinating language system that we're going to dive into today. The idea is, with just a small, carefully chosen set of words, you can get to this incredible level of clarity.
I mean, just think about that for a second. The average English speaker, we know tens of thousands of words. So could you really get by? And I don't just mean survive. I mean truly communicate with only 850? That question right there is at the very heart of this language system, and it's the big idea we're digging into.
So, 850. That's the magic number. It's the foundation of a system called Basic English, which was actually created way back in the 1930s with this massive goal, to be a simple international second language. And the list itself is so structured. You've got 600 nouns, 150 adjectives, and then just 100 of these operator words, like verbs and prepositions that do all the heavy lifting. The whole idea was to create this super clear backbone for communication that anyone anywhere could use.
Okay, but how does that even work? To really get a feel for the power and, the logic behind this whole system, we're not going to try and look at the entire list. That'd be overwhelming. Instead, we're going to take just one of those 850 words and put it under the microscope. We'll see what it can teach us about language itself.
So, for our little investigation here, we're turning to this fantastic resource, the Simple English Wiktionary. And it's exactly what it sounds like, a dictionary that explains words using really simple language, which, makes it the perfect place to explore a word from that basic English list. And the word we've picked for our deep dive is punishment. Now, this is a word we all know, right? It's a pretty universal concept, but by looking at it through the lens of basic English, we can start to see the really elegant structure that makes simple language so powerful. So here it is, punishment. On the surface, it seems simple enough, but it's actually a perfect example of how this whole system builds meaning from logical parts. So let's break it down and see how it's put together. Okay, so the Wiktionary gives us a little profile for the word. First thing, and this is super important, it confirms punishment is on that BE 850 list, so it's one of the core words. It tells us it's a noun, a thing or a concept, and it points out that it can be countable, like you could say he received 3 punishments, or uncountable, like punishment in general is hard to accept. Now, these might seem like just small details, but they're the actual rules of the road for how this word works.
All right, so let's really get into it now. How is a word like punishment even built? Because it's not just one solid block of meaning, right? It's actually made from smaller, simpler pieces.
Now, this is what I think is so cool. It shows you the internal logic. You start with the root, punish, which is an action, a verb. Then you add this suffix, ment, which is this handy little tool that turns an action into a concept or a thing. And there you go. You get punishment, a noun. It just goes to show you the language isn't random. It's a system, like Legos. It's all about building blocks.
And check out the definition from the Simple English Wiktionary. I mean, look at how direct this is. A response to bad actions, it is used to try to stop another bad action. That's it. There's no jargon, no wiggle room. It's a definition built for pure, simple understanding. And that's the entire philosophy behind basic English.
Okay, so we know what the word is, but a really great way to sharpen its meaning is to look at what it isn't. Understanding a word's opposites is such a powerful way to map out exactly where it fits in the world of ideas. And this just lays it out so perfectly. On one side of the coin, you have a synonym, penalty, kind of in the same ballpark, right? But then on the other side, you have the total opposites, reward, award, prize. And when you see that stark contrast, the meaning of punishment just gets so much sharper. It's not just a word floating around, it's a concept that exists in direct opposition to something else.
All right, so we've taken this one word completely apart. Let's zoom back out for a minute. What does this whole deep dive into punishment really tell us about the bigger picture, about the power of using simple language?
Okay, here's the crucial takeaway, the big so what. Using a smaller vocabulary isn't about limiting yourself. It's actually a form of discipline. It's about choosing clarity over clutter. It just makes things easier to process for both the person speaking and the person listening. When you use a core set of really well-defined words, you can build your ideas with precision, you get rid of confusion, and you just get straight to the point.
So what can we really take away from this one single word? Well, for one, it teaches us that even big, complex ideas are just built from simple, logical parts. It shows us that having a core vocabulary gives you this incredibly strong foundation for whatever you're trying to say. And that, at the end of the day, really effective communication comes down to the basics.
clear definitions, and knowing what a word isn't just as well as you know what it is. And believe me, these principles are just as important today, whether you're in global business or just trying to design a website that people can actually use. And that leaves us with one final thought to take with you. Just think about your own life, whether it's at work, at school, or just talking with friends. What's one complicated idea that you always struggle to explain? And maybe, just maybe, could the principles of simplicity, clarity, and structure we saw in this one little word help you explain it just a little bit better?